Where's James? Ellen just called me. She forgot. Who did? Ellen. Yeah, she forgot. Where did James go?
To preside from over there, I can't.
Okay, we have to go into closed session. Do you need?
We still need to go into closed session.
Do we not need to? Can we just add it to our
You
agenda?
never called me back.
Well, Wendell called me and said we had to. Oh, didn't think so.
Good morning. Good morning. Can I have your attention, please? We are about to start the meeting. Let me first say, I'm sure most of you all know I am not the chair. Thank God.
Oh, yay.
Right. And so every December across North Carolina, at the first meeting, there is a selection of the chair and the vice chair. So the county attorney in Durham County gets to preside at this only meeting of the year for this limited purpose prior to the selection of the chair and vice chair. So the first order of business on our agenda is the receipt of certificates from the director of the Board of Elections. Derek, would you come forward or go to the podium?
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. So we have two certificates of election to issue today for Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor for Durham County, Natalie Murdoch and David Harris. Mr. Attorney, if you do want me to just call them up and issue those.
That's fine, please.
All right, so I guess Ms. Murdoch, if you want to come up first, I'll give you the floor. Next, Mr. David Harris.
Congratulations. The next order of business will be the selection of the chair for the Durham County Board of Commissioners. At this time, I'll entertain nominations.
Mr. Attorney, I nominate Wendy Jacobs for chair.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of Wendy Jacobs as chair of the Durham County Board of Commissioners, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Commissioner Jacobs or Chairman Jacobs. Now, pray.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Attorney, for presiding.
I loved having all that power for just a minute.
Thank you.
Wear it well.
The next order of our business is the election of the vice chair of the Durham County Board of Commissioners. And I would like to open the nominations.
Madam Chair, I nominate James Hill for vice chair.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Carter, seconded by Commissioner Reckow. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And congratulations. I would just like to share a few comments, and then Commissioner Hill, you might like to as well. I would like to thank my fellow board members. I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to continue to serve in the role of chair of our board. I love serving in this capacity, and I will continue to work hard and do my very best every day on behalf of our board and the people of Durham. We have accomplished a lot in our work together, and as our recent retreat reinforced, we have strong consensus about our policy priorities aligning with the Durham County Strategic Plan. We will have a busy and exciting year ahead of us as we work together to move forward important goals for our community. Criminal justice reform, pre-K education, affordable housing, a cradle-to-career pipeline, a racial equity and trauma-informed community, a resilient and sustainable community, equitable economic development, a county-wide aging plan and response to medication and substance misuse, child welfare reform, and the successful implementation of the Durham Orange Light Rail Project and our first step towards creating a regional transit system. Thank you again for this honor and responsibility. I look forward to all of us working together in the year ahead.
I'll be very brief. Good morning. It is an honor to serve the people of Durham County. This is an outstanding place to be. There are 20 or so people every day coming to Durham. We can see all the great things that are happening here. We want all of our citizens to be able to enjoy in the prosperity that is here in Durham County. And we know that's not always the case, and that's what we're going to work hard over the next year to make sure that all of Durham's citizens can live a life with dignity and can live to their full potential, especially our children. We want to make sure that they have all the tools that they need to reach their goals, to reach their dreams, to have a good childhood, to go from that cradle to career, as we like to say here in Durham County, and have a successful and a wonderful life. And be a part of a beloved community here in Durham. That's what's important. That's what I'm and my colleagues are going to work towards this year. And I look forward to working with all of you to moving Durham to that place, to that beloved community. Thank you, and God bless.
Next item on our agenda is approval of the public official bonds.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Reckow, seconded by Commissioner Carter. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we have the installation of our Durham Soil and Water Conservation District Board Supervisors. And we are fortunate to have David Harris, who will be continuing to serve. And we have the Honorable Jaretta Walker, District Court Judge, here with us today to oversee the oath. I know we have at least one of David's family members here, our esteemed General Manager, Gail Harris.
Morning.
Thank you, Judge Walker, and congratulations to Natalie and David, and we look forward to working with you in your capacities as soil and water conservation supervisors. Congratulations. Next item on our agenda today is citizen comments, and we have one citizen signed up to speak. John Giovanni Tarantino, would you please state your name and address? And you have 3 minutes.
John Tarantino, 515 North Hyde Park. My nana called me Giovanni, so out of reverence to her.
Okay, I think your mic is not working. It's okay.
Our city's changing. Hey, Alan Redcow, what we gonna do now? Hey now, hey now.
So I set the table with that because of, I want to connect. I wanted to do this last month, but it was the day before the election, and I had something else to do here last month. And that I had been preparing for several weeks, so I did that instead. This is about the massacre in the Squirrel Hill Tree of Life Synagogue, which was right down the street from where my father worked for 2 decades as a shop teacher for the children of some of those people that got, I mean, he was friends, he knew, he had Jewish teachers that he knew, Jewish parents that he knew, and Jewish friends that he knew and that we broke bread with. We had students over at our house back in the 70s, and he and I were at some of their homes as well, so I got to know them a little bit. And some of those folks that were killed were in my father's age group, and so I'm sure that he has friends that knew people of that. I just wanted to share that because I bring up the point about breaking bread because we need to break bread with each other more, with people that are from different walks of life than where we are, and I try to do that. I periodically go up to the community kitchen next to the homeless shelter from time to time, a few times a year. It's good for us to come together as a community, and I wanted to share that with you. I hope that you, oh, and I wanted to mention one of my very close friends that was at Duquesne University as a sacred music student. He and I were very close during high school and college, and I lost track of him after that because I entered the Army, and I lost track of a lot of people. But yeah, he was from right there on that street where the synagogue was attacked, and I just want to share that because a lot of people don't usually get to know that much about me and my background because, of course, I come up here and I've been either a candidate or I come up here as a goofball sometimes and do satire. But I wanted to share that with you on a more serious, more somber note this morning. I hope you all have a blessed Hanukkah and a blessed Christmas season, which Hanukkah started last night. And thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, John. Thanks for sharing that.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
Just for the record, I was a little bit late this morning due to traffic. It wasn't intentional that I missed the swearing in of our officials. Just got behind in traffic and missed that part of it. I just want to make sure that that goes on record. It wasn't intentional.
Okay. Thank you. And we know about the traffic now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Traffic is pretty bad with 147 being worked on, and I always have to come up that way.
Yes.
Sometimes it's more difficult than others.
Absolutely. So we have our consent agenda, and I would like to entertain a motion to add an item to our agenda today that we would suspend the rules and take action on regarding setting the salary of the incoming sheriff.
So moved.
Okay.
Moved by Commissioner Reckow, seconded by Commissioner Howerton. So just to get clarity, Mr. Attorney, can we take action on that first?
You can.
Okay. So the item before us is to set the salary for Sheriff Clarence Burkhead at $150,099.
So moved.
Move that we suspend the rules.
Thought that's what we did.
Well, I thought we
Yeah,
were
we're adding the agenda.
adding the agenda
Okay.
items.
Okay, so first motion is to suspend the rules by Commissioner, moved by Commissioner Reckow. Do I have a second? Second. Okay, by Commissioner Hill, suspend the rules. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The rules have been suspended, and now Commissioner Howerton has moved to set the salary,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Reckow. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the salary has been unanimously approved and set. Okay, we have a number of consent agenda items, and I guess we're trying to expedite our discussion of these items, so if you can let me know which items that you have any questions on by telling me the number, or would like further discussion. Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
Yes, so the very first one I'd like to, funny, I didn't even mark this one. It's probably the one I care the most about. 18-1124. And then I have just a few fairly straightforward, simple questions about 1130, 1141, comment on 1143, 1146, and 1148.
Okay, other commissioners? Commissioner Reckow.
I also wanted to pull 1124 and want to comment on 1156. And just ask a quick question on
1143 for me. I think it sounds like we may as well pull them all.
Okay, so we'll start with, let's see. Maybe that we've covered all of them here.
Yes, we have.
Why don't we'll go through and start with 11118 on the, let's see, that was
Aren't
not,
all
that
of
was not all of them. Okay, first one is 1130. I'm
No,
sorry,
it's
1124. Commissioner Carter?
Yes, so this is about the County Commissioners' meeting schedule. As you all can see, the 2019 schedule, beginning in January, going through December 9th. I would request that we consider approving January 2nd through the end of June. I'm not ready to approve June through the end of the year, at least as published here. I still strongly believe that we have enough complexity, in our work that we need another work session. And I know we were going to take that up again later after trying to put a few interim measures in place to see if that would sort of cover the time needed to discuss all of the work session items that we typically have. And I'm of the opinion that moving some things to our night meeting and, doing our best to be expeditious at our work sessions hasn't, worked in such a way that we're here for 4 hours or less and that we're fresh, our brains are clear and we're able to do our best work. And that we're also very respectful of staff time. And so I would, be happy to approve January through June. I would at some point like to propose, I'm not sure when the appropriate time to do so would be, but that we go back to the proposal that I brought to the work session, I don't know, was it August or September, where my suggestion was we add a second work session and have the schedule such that our regular nighttime meetings stay where they are on these Mondays as listed here, and that our work sessions are moved to the Thursday afternoons following the Monday evening meetings. If the board's not ready to take all of that up now, that's fine. We can add it to an agenda later, but I'm not prepared to approve this whole schedule. I will approve through June, the end of June. Wanted to see what others thought about how to approach that.
Okay, Commissioner Howerton. Oh, I'm sorry, you also wanted to comment on this. Commissioner Reckow and then Commissioner Howerton.
So my questions are on the meetings proposed for January and October. It says in the calendar that the highlighted in yellow meetings are changes due to holidays and conference schedules, but the meetings in January, January 2nd is highlighted, but January 2nd is not on a regular day. Our regular work session would be January the 7th. And our two regular meetings are on the 1st and the 3rd Monday nights, which are council meeting nights. And I didn't understand, they weren't highlighted as a change, but they're not appropriate. So our meetings in January, our regular ones should be, our work session should be on the 7th. Our regular meeting should be on the 14th, first one, and the second one should be on the 28th. So how do we end up with the 7th and the 22nd?
Yeah, that is correct, because we meet the first Monday of the month, and that would be January 7th.
So
work session.
I'd like to suggest that we revert to our normal pattern. We will confuse our citizens by changing the 3 meeting dates in January. It's not a good way to start the year. And then the same pattern happened in October, I believe. So in October, again, we have October 1st, which is a Tuesday, as our work session, and then the regular meetings on when the council's meeting. And here again, I think we need to go as a default with our work session on the 7th, our regular meeting on the 14th, and then on the 28th.
Thank you for picking that up. You're absolutely right. Also, I noticed that February 4th was highlighted in yellow, but that's actually a Monday, so it shouldn't be highlighted in yellow.
That's a good point, too. I actually had that noted and forgot to mention that.
Yeah. Commissioner Howerton.
I appreciate you picking those up. I noticed a couple of those, the same ones that Ellen had noticed. And the other, as far as, I guess what, just in reference to Heidi's recommendation, I would really like to see, the staff had talked about doing an analysis over before we begin to look at anything like that, as far as changing our schedule. And rather than changing it in the middle of the year, I would really like to see what the analysis comes back with for the following year, because we've already begun to schedule ourselves for meetings and conferences. And I would rather see it, if it's going to happen, I'd rather see it happen in the coming year, not this year, because we've already got our schedules planned. Just a thought.
Okay, any other comments? So I think that we've been talking about this for a while. I know this is a priority for you, Commissioner Carter, and I think we had, the manager had said that, Mr. Manager, that you all would be looking at this issue and come back to us. I think you said in January, when we talked about it, I believe in August, that you would come back in January. I think it's a good approach to say that, you know, we're giving staff time, come back to us in January, and then we can move forward with any changes then. And so it makes sense to me to just go with your recommendation of approving up until the end of the fiscal year. So do we want to, we've got some changes that need to be made, staff, with what's proposed here based on the dates. And then we can, you know, we can just vote on this at our meeting on Monday accordingly. Okay, the next item is,
Madam Chair?
yes.
I would like us to at least vote, maybe vote through August, because some of us like to do summer plans around the meetings, so we don't have moving.
Does that
okay?
Does that sound reasonable to you?
Well, I want to be really sensitive to anyone's scheduling issues, and I really appreciate, Brenda, your suggestion, your willingness to consider it for the following year. Really appreciate that. Because I do think with something that, you know, is going to require pretty big change for all of us, my preference would be we could approve any sort of change like that by consensus. So I wonder if a compromise might be, I feel like I've been waiting for this for almost 2 years now, just because right from the start I felt like one work session wasn't enough. I wonder if we could ask staff, see what you all think about this, if we could ask staff to make the corrections that Ellen suggested that would keep us on our current schedule through the end of August. And that's 9 months, it seems like, to sort of prep your schedule. You know, it feels like that should be ample time for scheduling September through December. It would be great if staff could bring us back a revised full year calendar, January through the end of August, following the same schedule we've been following, but then for September, October, November, and December, if they could bring us back the schedule that aligns more with my proposal that we saw in August, and then we could respond to that. Seems like a compromise.
Well, but that doesn't go along with listening to the manager, the January work.
Well, we can listen at the January work session, but we could also have something to look at, to respond to if.
Well, can we just approve through August and then wait?
Sure, but I would like to see the actual calendar printed out, what it would, I'll do it if no one else wants to. I'd be happy to do it. So we could at least see exactly what I'm talking about rather than, you know, trying to explain it ethereally.
I think the main issue is that we would move forward with approving the calendar
have
through
now.
the end of August.
Yes.
At this point.
Although I'm just want to raise one other issue. I just want to make sure. So for July, we only have one meeting in July, and I just want to ask for board members, is it most convenient for people to do the 22nd of July or the 8th of July or the 29th? I just realized, I mean, I'm probably going to be out of town the 22nd. I'm just one person. And so if it's only me, keep it the way it is. I was just curious whether all of us might be in town on the 8th or the 29th.
I honestly don't know.
You don't know yet?
And actually, I'm usually gone either the 22nd or the 28th, those last 2 weeks in July.
Okay.
We flip-flop depending on sort of family availability and such for our family vacation.
Well,
We-
maybe
Do
we
we
should
always
go-
meet in July?
We have
We always have.
We have
one
to
meeting.
have
We have to have one meeting in July?
Yeah.
the conference is July what?
the 12th to the 15th.
So I know I'm gone. I'll be back, won't be back until the 16th.
Right.
Probably prefer the 8th.
So,
Yeah, I prefer the 8th. Are people going, well, I mean, one option we have is to go back to our original proposal and just approve through June. And then as our summer plans solidify, maybe we could mark a calendar to discuss again in early March. I mean, that they need to know several months ahead for public hearing, setting public hearings and things like that. But we could revisit the rest of the year in March, maybe after people have their summer plans.
I think that
Or
sounds,
at least just the month of July even, you know.
Okay.
I don't know, whatever.
All right.
and would you want to have 2 work sessions in November? Well, December is out for 2 work sessions. We barely get in 1 work session and a board meeting, much less 2 meetings. And
Well, I don't know.
In November, well, okay, November is not a whole lot better.
That's why I'd like to see it, you know, like on a schedule so we can all look at it compared to the actual number of days in the month that are,
so let me just propose that for our December 10th meeting, these dates are going to be corrected that have been identified. I'm going to propose that we move our July meeting to July 8th, because then it gives people at least 3 solid weeks of knowing that they have that time. Which is, I think it's often disruptive to have something in the middle of July if people are trying to schedule family vacations. So let's move that to July 8th, and that we will consider approving the schedule through the end of August at this point. And we can,
At our December meeting, and then
and then
we'll
we
discuss
can-
it in January.
and then we can further discuss this in January. That's my
Is the
proposal.
board going to give staff any consideration as to what that looks like?
They're going to come back in January.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I heard you say January work session, but obviously in light of the holiday coming up, a lot of staff will be sort of taking time out for the holiday. So we probably will look at either the first or the second regular session meeting. And if we have to do an early work session to discuss this item, we'll do it at that point.
Okay, so as soon as staff is ready, we
Thank you.
understand that. Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to, the next item was 11:30, Commissioner Carter.
yeah. I just was curious, wondering if we could get a little more information about the comment in one of the supplemental documents about this project already being $2.7 million over budget. It was on page 2 of the action form backup, one of the action forms. So we're adding $65,000 here. That's what we'll be authorizing here, but there was something about it being $2.7 million over budget.
The $2.7 million that we were talking about in that particular item, Perry can address it, but in a nutshell, to keep us on task in respect to the timing. If you recall, when we did the original plans for upfitting the building across the street, it did not include the 7th floor.
Right.
And so the board made a decision essentially to move forward with that, and we packaged it along with the financing after our trip to meet with the bond rating agencies in the fall. And so that's essentially the line, where the $2 million comes from. $2+ million.
Item addresses the Admin 1 building.
It's admin 1.
And so what's happened is through the programming, we basically decided, who would be on what floor. And what this item is specifically is for the lead certification fees. That is the reporting and analysis that will have to be done by DTW and Edmondson engineers. And the second portion of this is actually for the structural modifications that will be required on 4 and 4M to accommodate legal and IST who will be moving down a floor. If you look at the building, you know it's on the original portion of the building. So if you're from the exterior, you know the roof is sloped with the skylight. So that structural feel will be modified to make more efficient floor plates for those departments moving down. Now, to address your comment, we have went through an extensive value engineering exercise, and that 2.7, that's not accurate. But what happened was there was some additional funding that General Services basically had for the boiler replacement over at DSS Main. So we'll be shifting some of that funding, you know, from one project to another to accomplish what we need to do with this. You know, we've come back to you several times about the boiler separation across the street, and so it sort of all ties in together. So we're looking at that more extensively, and we'll come back to you guys at the time of construction approval when we can really nail that down. But that 2.7, that's not accurate.
The part, I guess thank you, Perry, that is helpful, especially about what we're really approving today. But, I mean, yeah, not today, but what we're allowing to stay on the consent agenda today, I guess. It's on page 2 of the backup form, the next to last paragraph. Also, per the attached cost estimate, the total project is currently projected to be at a total of 9.9, actually almost $10 million, which includes the current 6 ad alternates and is over the Durham County budget of $7.3 million. And, you know, with current construction costs escalating, we would advise that costs could possibly be higher. And so anyway, I was just really asking about that. And do we need to be concerned about that at this point? I know it doesn't seem directly connected to what we're going to be approving, but.
Yeah, we are concerned about it, Commissioners. Again, we've been in discussion with our Budget and Finance Department about what we can do to sort of, I guess, minimize the overall impacts to the overall county budget pursuant to both of these projects. So we are taking a look at that more extensively, and like I said, we're going through a value engineering exercise right now to minimize that impact. But like I said, we are concerned. There are just some cost escalations, particularly as we sort of have nailed down which departments are going where. So again, we'll continue to look at that. And like I said, I know it's not 2.7. There is a slight escalation, but again, we're trying to accomplish it with the funding that was left available from the other project due to that separation and what was required there.
Commissioner Recco.
So I want to thank Commissioner Carter for pulling this one because when I read it, I was alarmed. I mean, an escalation of over $2.5 million is such a huge increase. And I wonder, where's the money coming from? I mean, we're seeing later in the agenda, large increase for admin 2. We're going to end up with that one up near, is it near $50 million? I mean, I don't know. I'm stunned. But on this one, I mean, where is the money coming from? Have we identified ways to cover these costs?
Commissioners, again, I mentioned the $500,000 for the boiler separation, but there was also other additional money left in the DSS Main Street pot. When we talked about the public, when the project was previously a public plaza. So again, we are working with Budget and Finance to sort of figure out where this funding will come from. And again, we're also working with the design team to get these numbers down. So we'd like to, again, let us go through this VE process, and we will be able to report back out to you exactly what the cost impacts for the overall project will be.
Well, I hope you'll do some value engineering. I mean, I was just struck in admin 2, to be perfectly honest, when you go into the breakout rooms where there's big refrigerators, dishwashers. I just think we've got to be a little more judicious with public funds. And I hope we will look at ways to cut costs without cutting quality. I mean, we want these buildings to look great, but on the other hand, I just hope we will apply a dose of common sense in like more places.
Thank you. The next item for questions was the 1143 contract with Recovery Response Services.
I had asked, I just wanted to say that I know Alliance is moving to change their name from Alliance Behavioral Health Care, Alliance Healthcare, I think. Does that matter at all as far as
The contract.
what's in the contract or anything like that?
So we've had multiple back and forths with them on this agreement, and that had not been brought up to us, but I'm certainly happy to make sure that the name on the lease is correct.
Sounds great. Thank you. That's great, thank you. It
Thank
may,
you.
it
And I
may
did,
not matter at all. It may, be happening later enough, so it doesn't matter.
and I realized I did skip over 1141. Commissioner Carter, which you had a comment on.
Yeah, so this is the item about reducing the general fund budget for the payment of three fire. And instead using lobs, right? So my question, I guess, was, how many years will it take to pay off the debt service for these trucks? And the reason I'm asking is, well, I guess I just wasn't unclear about the Durham County Fire and Rescue Tax District Funds existence. Will it, is it going to always be in existence even after the services are taken over by the city?
Typically, you want the debt service to be no more than the life of the asset, and typically the life for asset of fire trucks is 10 years. So over a 10-year period, that tax for the special district, for that special revenue, will be the funding source. An amortization schedule will be created for the $1.4 million so that it can fully fund the purchase of the 3 fire trucks, and general fund money won't be used.
And what you're telling me is that fire district does remain in place?
Yes, ma'am, until at such point in time that the city may annex the entire district.
Oh, I see.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you. And I want to commend whoever wrote up the AAF for that, all the detailed information. I don't know if that was you, Susan, or you, Keith, but thank you. It was very detailed. Thank you.
I agree with
Madam Chair, we go back just for a second for 1143.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you had mentioned that one, that
Yeah.
you had a comment on that.
Just a quick question. The 1.5 million for the upgrade, where is that coming from?
Those were not county funds, those were alliances, funds that they needed to do these renovations to keep up to current state standards and client services standards. So they have invested that on their own, and that's one of the reasons why they really needed the longer-term lease to make sure they get a return on this major investment that they have put into the building.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, item 1146, about 59,000 plus from Department of Health and Human Services for opioid crisis. Commissioner Carter?
Yes, this is, great. We're getting this funding, as well as the additional funding we're getting in item number 1148. I just really was excited to see this and wondered if we could just get a few more details on how the money is going to be used. Is it going to be like stipends for peer support? Or?
Commissioner Carter, we're contracting with Recovery Innovations to hire and train peer support specialists who will be alerted when there are folk who have overdose episodes at the emergency department, and they will come to the emergency department and connect with those individuals and connect them to treatment services. So they will be paid part-time employees of Recovery Innovation.
That's a great move on our part.
That was a result of the work done in collaboration with the committees affiliated with Durham Joins Together to Save Lives.
Okay. Thank
And the $10,000 will support Dr. Wanda Boone as the project manager for the collective impact training that the group is receiving through the UNC School of Government over the next 2 years.
And is that the 1148?
That is.
That's the 1148 item. Okay. And that's also very exciting.
That's the, no, that's not 1148. That's one further down.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah.
1153.
It's 1153.
That's right. That's the one. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And you want to know about 1148?
Do you want to go there now, or should we wait? Was there something in between?
Well, I just wanted to mention, thank you, Commissioner Carter, for drawing attention to this grant. This is really exciting as part of our Durham County-wide Durham Joins Together to Save Lives, which is our effort to address medication and substance misuse. And this is actually, the total grant is more like $98,000, is that correct? So it's a 2-year. And what was exciting about it is that about at least half a dozen different groups worked on it. And it's really representing how we're all pulling together to work on this in a cross-system approach. And as a matter of fact, one of the entities is dedicating funding for medically assisted treatment, which is going to be a component of this grant. So it's to be able to, when people come in and they overdose and they come in contact with our first responders or they end up in the ER, right now so many people don't have health insurance. And so we can't even offer them help. And so with this grant, this pilot is to actually be able to give people support with the peer support specialists, but then connect them to treatment, which is what we really need to be doing. So we're very excited about it.
Is there a way, is there somewhere to go online and read more comprehensively about all that's happening with this? And what was the name of the committee?
Durham Joins Together to Save Lives.
Yes, Durham Joins Together. Is there
We
a
don't have a website, but all are welcome to attend meetings.
Right. I actually had someone ask me about this and wanted to know more details because they're very interested in it. It's the only reason I asked. But the person actually can't attend the meetings because she's running her own Suboxone clinic when the meeting's being held. But if there's some way to...
We can discuss
we'll talk about it.
Whether it's connected with the health department's website or...
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Gail.
Yeah.
Question.
Commissioner Howerton.
So Gail, the peer support, does that include persons that support individuals once they're off of the drugs? And what I'm alluding to is a conversation that was had in DC about how individuals react once they are off of the drugs, and having someone work with them or after they are off the drugs, because they're reacting a particular way with the officers, and if they don't have anybody to work with them later.
Yeah.
Is that included in this peer support?
Peer support specialists are available to help individuals through this journey. The caveat with our grant, it's only 2 years of funding, and so we have to look at how we sustain that as we move forward. But there are lots of opportunities with some of the services that Alliance has created in the community to continue to help support individuals. So we're looking at a new pathway for our community.
Well, and some of it might have to do with the new sheriff and what he implements as well, because the other thing that was mentioned was in the schools and having someone working with young people in the schools, having more counselors that are particularly working in this arena.
Yes, and the sheriff has been attending our medication and treatment committee, and he is very supportive of medication-assisted therapy inside the facility, and so we're working to figure out the logistics of moving forward and the financial impact that will mean for our budget. But CCS has agreed to have their medical director on site obtain the waiver to be a person who can prescribe for people who are entering the jail and on medication assistance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. So next item is 11, well, we just did 1146. It actually, Gail, don't move. 1148, which is the grant related to child health and infant mortality.
And so I asked to have that one pulled mainly because I wanted to say, whoop, whoop. That's what I wrote on my line, you know, where you can write in questions. This is amazing, I think. What I don't understand is how we're going to be able to do so much with such little money. It's just $10,000, right?
But this is $8,000.
$8,000. Is it being combined with some other? And could you just describe this, you know, the dine in early childhood education and the farm to early childhood education? It sounds amazing, everything that we're going to be trying to do to address childhood obesity earlier in life.
This program will be part of our DINE effort in this Durham's Innovative Nutrition Education Program. And this is funded by the SNAP funds. And so some of you may have gotten information about good talking points about the Farm Bill. If you didn't get that, we really do need you to advocate for the Senate version, should you choose to. But
we added that to our federal legislative list. Actually.
Yes. But they're able to do population-focused initiatives in a variety of settings. And one of the settings that Megan is working in is the child care settings. And we're looking at doing policy, systems, and environmental changes. And this grant was awarded by the Public Health Association. And will be presented officially. We had to change the meeting because of the hurricanes, but in a couple of weeks at the reestablished time. But she's been working with the child care centers on the foods that they choose for children. And one of the things that she has done, because one center uses a local restaurant to provide its foods, but she's been able to work with the restaurant on the appropriate healthier versions of the foods that are delivered. And it turns out that this restaurant also provides meals for one of the charter schools. And so they said they're going to change those meals as well so that they're delivering the same kinds of meals to both settings. So they do a lot with a little bit.
They do a lot with a little. So we have, I just think this would be a great piece of fodder for a story in the newspaper. I wish someone would cover the DINE program again. It hasn't been covered in a long time.
It has not.
In our elementary schools and middle schools, and we're expanding to more early childhood.
Early childhood, yeah.
I just think it's excellent. One of the Durham County Health Departments.
And it is a homegrown program that they actually evaluate, and it is seen as a promising practice since it's not evaluated by NC State.
Well, thank you for all the work that's been done in this arena.
And thanks, Commissioner Carter, for drawing attention to it. It certainly aligns with what we're trying to do with our focus on high-quality pre-K. So nutrition is an important part of that.
Point.
Okay, let's see. Next item is 1156, which is about the lobs related to admin to 7th floor. So Perry, or this will be you again. And this was Commissioner Recco. You had wanted to comment on it.
Yes,
11
I
to
was
15.
just concerned about the overall cost. I guess now we're up to a total price of over $40. Again, have we identified, well, I guess we have identified we're going to be doing lobs, but when we do this, it would be interesting to see the overall CIP and see how the monies that we're adding to these projects affect the availability of funds for other projects. I mean, do we need to give some things up and make choices? Because we don't have an unlimited pot of money. So I didn't see any of that here.
Commissioner, that's a good question. It's a larger discussion. We're working extensively with Budget and Finance and the actual CIP committee to sort of identify which projects we'll be bringing forward to you, and we are factoring that in, the fact that some of these current projects are seeing just significant overruns due to the subcontractor trade market right now, and that's just what we're experiencing on all of our projects. So we can certainly come back to you with some more information regarding that if you deem that appropriate. But like I said, that's a larger conversation.
Well, I think we've got to be cognizant of the fact that we need to make choices, and I wouldn't necessarily expect that we're going to be able to do everything that we approved in our last CIP if we have a big cost increase here and we have a big cost increase over there. The two together are over $4 million or so. So, I mean, I just think we've got to look at what we're trying to do and not assume that we're going to have tax increases necessarily to pay for all this extra stuff, that we look at making choices.
I couldn't agree more, Commissioner Reckow, and this is part of what the manager and I noted at the retreat, recent retreat, was that costs are rising, cost of interest rates are rising, plus the cost of doing business when it comes to construction is rising. We will be coming back to you in January and February for a review of the updated CIP with exactly those concerns noted. There are choices that have to be made. We have built up a little bit of a fund balance for over the years to deal with some tax rate fluctuations related to the existing CIP. We are currently using some of that fund balance for some of these unplanned issues, $4 million for DTCC. You've got another project, $1 million for bed support over there at the jail. There are a number of things that we have to pay for, that we are paying for. And thankfully, we have the funds to pay for them now, but it will have ramifications in the future, and we will show you that when that time comes. But it is duly noted, and we are well aware of the issues you are concerned about.
Well, and the reason the other item is that last one on the jail, and I pulled that for that. I mean, we don't have to maybe combine it because it was the same philosophy that we're going to have almost $1 million of expense that we hadn't planned at all. And so that gets you up over $5 million. So I'm just saying that we're going to start working. I mean, can you show us even for our meeting next week how we're going to cover these expenses?
The 3.2 million was included in the LOBS that was issued in September of 2018. It was one of the projects listed in the resolution.
Okay.
The funding's already there, and the only reason that we, originally the 7th floor wasn't to be refinished, and Barry might want to speak to that, but in doing the final analysis for this building, one department had to move. So that's why the 7th floor is now being finished because it wasn't in the original plan, my understanding.
So are you saying we've already issued the debt that covers the 3.2 million? So it's not new debt? It was already?
Ma'am.
Okay.
It was September of 2018.
But then how are we going to cover the other 2 million?
But we are issuing some new debt for some of these projects, isn't that right?
I think specifically the
The increase
improvements for the jail
Yeah.
is something that we had
And
not
the jail.
budgeted for.
As I said, we have built up a significant amount of fund balance that we were going to use in future years to keep the tax rate related to capital financing flat or limit variability. That fund balance is sitting there and is now going to be used, a portion of it, not all of it, but a portion of it, to pay for the jail upgrades, to potentially pay for the $2+ million. I haven't seen the amount yet coming from Perry yet as it relates to this building. But there are other things, the $4 million for DTCC. Remember, we also did $1.4 million for the county stadium upgrade. So we have been hitting our fund balance consistently. Trust me, I sat with a group of leaders last week and made it very clear that the choices we make today have cost and effect on choices we have or limit the choices we can make in the future.
I mean, I'd be interested in seeing that presentation. I don't know, just understanding better. It sounds like you've explained it to staff. Is it something we should?
Well, part of the issue is that without having a CIP fully in focus for the next 10 years, I can tell you where we are right now, but all this blends together in a global picture. And until we have decisions about downtown parking decks, buildings, and any number of other capital projects we have out there, EMS stations, a whole host of things.
Does this also, you know, interrelate, or does this relate also to the schools, the general obligation bonds we might need to issue for schools?
It does. If you remember when I spoke to y'all at the retreat, remember I told you that Aaron Bayou said they could really appreciate more annualized funding, not waiting for 4 years for GO bonds and then being under pressure to spend that. They would like to have more annual dollars. That is in a direct reflect to how we choose to pay for that. Could be a fund balance. It could be just an annual budgeting. You will feel it every year if we so choose to make decisions along that line to give them. They currently get $1.37 million in current capital funding. However, we choose to give them more if we so choose to do that. That would be something you would feel every year.
So it feels like we're making a decision not exactly in a vacuum, but like we're choosing something without knowing what other things we might want to choose instead.
Well, that's correct. And when we bring forward the revised capital plan for next year, going straight to the heart of what has already been said at the podium up there, we got some critical choices that we're going to have to make going forward. And while there have been these interim items that have come up, like the adjustments that we have made to the jail, the escalating construction costs, and things of those factors, while we can value engineer as much as we can, the reality of it is that we don't have an unlimited supply of resources. And so when the new capital project plan, should I say, is presented, there are some things that will be perhaps slipped out to some of the further or outer years of the plan. There are some things that we're potentially going to have to rethink in respect to whether or not we're going to do them at all if we are going to do cost containment. And that was what the whole essence of the conversation at the retreat was about in respect to why it's important for us, not just philosophically, but, operationally, to think very deliberate about the priorities that we set going forward.
I think it just points to the fact that it's very good timing that we are going to be looking at our CIP and that we're going to be doing this important work very soon in the new year so that we can really take a look at this and understand the choices that were being made. I do think, though, that especially item 1158 related to the jail, we know is extremely important. And I'm sure I'm speaking for our entire board in saying that this is a huge priority for us, that we are very happy to see this moving forward, that we have ready to sign a contract with C.T. Wilson, that all of the hazards in the jail are going to be dealt with, and that there is a timeline and a deadline for the contract. So we know that all this work will be completed by October of 2019, and there's a plan to implement. Maybe Jody, could you even give us?
Before we leave
Yeah.
this one,
Yes, go ahead.
so this is another reason why I think it's important that we not languish also, or not let it slip for a year or so in terms of looking at our surplus property, because to the degree that we can sell even one or two of those properties and raise revenue that helps cover, I mean, that's the perfect thing to use revenues like that for, because for a one-time capital cost. So I just think that, following up on our retreat, that I hope we don't let 6-9 months go by and that information is brought back associated with our CIP review to look at the follow-up on our discussion on surplus properties.
Thank you. And Jody, I was just going to let you maybe elaborate on what was the plan for item 1158 and how the work is going to be done in coordination with other projects.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to just give you a little bit more detail on this project. As the Chairwoman has stated, Chairman Jacobs stated, this is a priority project for the board, and so working in partnership with General Services Department, our engineering department, the detention center staff, as well as budget and finance, we went to work this summer to develop a strategy to address this project, to develop a way to complete the project in a timely fashion. We know we had identified that the HVAC grills as well as the bunk beds needed to be addressed as a safety hazard in the detention center. At the same time, the project with CT Wilson to work on the staff desk areas in the pod was also approved by the board. So we have before us an opportunity to do all this work at one time. And this is really important, not only in sort of the cost approach, but you have to realize from an operational standpoint, the detention center, when this work is done, it means logistically the staff have to figure out how to move detainees from one pod to another and make that process work in an efficient, safe manner. And so by doing these projects together, we're able to do that in a timely way, in a safe manner for all those who are involved, and also able to do it in a way that gets the projects, specifically all the grills completed, all the bunk beds modified within a timeline of October of 2019. I will share with the board what this also means, though, is because of this type of project and having to move people around the detention center into different pods, it will mean a delay in the implementation of the mental health pod for females. They'll be using that identified space now as an area to move people around while the individual pod work is happening. And so the desk work, the HVAC grill replacement, and the bunk bed work will all be done in pods individually and coordinated throughout the city.
So it sounds like the mental health pod won't be implemented really at all this year.
For the women, the men's already.
I know that for the women.
My understanding is they'll start the working towards and the training and everything that happens going into the new calendar year. But depending on how quickly we can complete this project, which does have a deadline, that's when they'll be able to fully implement the female.
And so what we appropriated for the full year, what did we appropriate as an increase for the mental health?
I'd have to go back and look. So there'll be some cost savings in the current fiscal year based on that delay.
Well, we need to make sure that those savings are realized and that they don't get moved to another line item or something.
I would agree.
And I hope that there will be a full briefing of the new sheriff on all these construction plans in the next week or so that
We've
there's a
made him
full
aware of
understanding.
projects, and we'll continue to do that. We're in constant contact with him and his team to make sure he's up to speed.
Okay, thank
Commissioner Howerton?
Oh, just a little bit of a different question, but in the same vein. Jody, do you have any idea how many adults would have to be out of our jail in order to have space for our juveniles?
How many adults would have to be out of?
So right now, we don't have enough space. We have too many adults to have a separate pod
For
the
youth?
17-year-olds.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering, what does that equate to as far as numbers?
We would have to go back and look at the data on that. I don't know off the top of my
Yeah,
head. We would
I'd
have
like-
to,
yeah, if you
we'd have to evaluate and look at the analysis we did on the number of beds needed for a youth home project, looking at 16 and 17-year-olds, and then look at the current jail population for adults 18 and older to do that analysis.
Okay, I'd like to see that when.
Because if I may add something, because to answer your question, you would have to take into consideration both males and females.
Yes, right, because of the separation of male and females as well. And then we also have the mental health pod for males and soon to have the mental health pod.
That's going to be an issue that's going to confront us pretty
And some of the
soon.
other issues relative to co-defendants and things of that nature.
Yeah.
You don't want to put them together.
Yeah.
So there's
So
some
it's
other factors that have to be.
A lot of factors that come into play there, but I'd like to hear what we've got to have a plan pretty soon as to what we're going to do when that bill goes into effect.
And that's something that we're working on with our youth home staff as well as the detention center staff and the county attorney's office, looking at what the options will be, both short-term and long-term.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that overview, Jody. And again, this is very exciting to see this moving forward. This has been an important priority for our board to make sure that the jail is as safe as possible for everybody.
And Chairman Jacobs, I just would like to take a moment to recognize and personally thank the people who were in departments that were part of pulling this project together and coming up with a strategy. Certainly Perry Mann's and the engineering team. We have general services, we have budget and finance, Keith Lane and Susan Desai, who helped us with this strategy. Colonel Pregnano over at the detention center. All these people came together and to really help us come up with a strategy for how we could effectively move this project forward. And I just wanted to personally recognize them and say,
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone who was part of this great collaboration. When everybody works together, we can always come up with the best way to get things done. So thank you for letting us know that. So I think we have covered all of the consent agenda items that we'll be voting on December 10th. Any other final comments or questions on any of the items? Well, I just wanted to say, when I read most of this agenda, I felt like it was Hanukkah and Christmas because there are so many great grants on here related to, sexual health for our youth, Project Build, the opioid crisis, the DINE program. There's just so many great things that are funded here. And I think what I was going to recommend too, seeing that the donation from Credit Suisse for Project Build, I was going to request that our clerk write a letter of thanks on behalf of our entire board to Credit Suisse. I think that we really want to acknowledge and encourage the private sector when they are making these types of grants. So if you could do that on behalf of all of us, Terry, that would be great. Okay, so let's see, our final item here is a discussion on directives. Has everybody figured out how to pull those up on their OneDrive?
No. Still haven't had time to get with IT. There's been no time.
So I guess what I'm going to suggest is, Drew, could you work with Terry to set up maybe just even a special meeting for all of us, just to, okay, all right.
Thank you.
All right, so that we can do that.
I had had some further conversations with Greg Merrow and kind of trying to work on it and make sure that's made available to you, but Terry and I can work together to make sure that happens. Are there any questions on the directives themselves? The prompt minutes have improved the promptness of the directives, so that's great. Thank you to the clerk and her staff for that. But any questions on the directives themselves?
I haven't seen him, so hard to ask questions.
Commissioner Hill?
Just want to thank Claudia. I appreciate the email that I had. I had some questions a couple of weeks ago about the software packages that we were using, and I guess specifically what they did. And she addressed those last week, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I looked at the directives, Drew, and I guess I don't want to take time now, but I think some of the items actually have been followed up on that are still listed on there, so.
And
yeah.
what I need and what I've asked the other folks who have been assigned items is that when they complete the follow-up on an item, I don't necessarily know that they need to go in and
So we
update it.
need,
And I try to highlight in yellow things
Yeah.
that appear not to have been completed,
yeah,
but it's kind of a community effort to make sure
Right.
that the tasks have been completed and then the directive sheet has
Okay.
been updated as well.
so Mr. Manager, could you encourage staff to take a look at the directives and update them? Because I think some of them they've been completed, could be updated.
The chief of staff does a pretty good job reminding folks early and often in respect to getting that work done, and yeah, we can do that certainly.
Okay.
Okay, I finally got to them, but I'll have to, how do I get to the right date?
Oh, there's the one guy just got put in here already this morning. You can't ask for any better timing than that. Thank you. Was that you, Drew, that put that in there? Thank you very much. It's already in there. Our discussion today.
It's easier for me if I don't have to try to remember what was said.
Yeah.
Day 2, 3 later.
So, I see. So, I wanted to follow up on the firearms ordinance. The directive was to add a few clarifications and bring back for adoption at the 11/13 meeting. That didn't happen. Mr. Attorney, the firearms ordinance, do you think you can bring that back for our regular meeting next week?
I can, to the work session?
No, to our regular meeting
regular
next week.
I think we can.
Because,
But it's up to you all, the board, as to when you want it.
well, the directive from the last meeting, according to these directives, is add a few clarifications and bring back for adoption to the 11/13 meeting. So it was supposed to have been brought back in November.
You all actually, some of you asked for some information regarding NRA regulations. We had to write off for that. We now have it that we can send to you, so we can go on and send that out to you. So we'll work
Okay.
towards trying to get this on that agenda.
I'm very time sensitive on this because this started with a complaint from a citizen in Rougemont in, I think, March or April of 2017. And then we've had other citizen complaints. And we all know that it's not really enforceable as written, and that there are things in our current ordinance that have been preempted by state and federal law. And we actually got a citizen comment by email last week about that. I do feel some urgency in getting this ordinance straightened out so that it's workable, but also that it doesn't include language that's currently illegal.
Our office feels the urgency of it as well,
Okay.
and we want to get this done just as quickly as possible, too. And I've talked to Curtis, who's been in communication with the sheriff's deputies. As I understand it, well, I'll speak to you about this offline as it relates to the status of those provisions that have been preempted.
Mm-hmm.
But please know, we'll bring it back to you just as quickly as possible.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and send out to you all the NRA record.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on directives at this point? We will need to, Terry, you're going to work on getting support for that for commissioners that need help. I know Commissioner Howerton needs assistance. I'm okay. Who else? Commissioner Hill needs
Well,
assistance.
I finally think I figured it out.
Are you okay?
I can get to the directives. I don't know that I can get to everything, and I sort of stumble my way along, and eventually land on the right spot. So there's going to be a training, I'm coming.
Yeah. So we would like a training. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, commissioners, we are going to recess our meeting now and reconvene at 2 p.m. today. I'd like to entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Is there anything we can do now? There's not, is there? It's going to be difficult to reconvene at 2 for me. I just wondered, we've got an
Well,
hour.
I mean, we could go into,
half.
I guess, since it's actually earlier than 11:30.
Yeah, we have an extra hour.
Well, I don't know. We've already set up a time. Yeah, we can't.
But we could discuss the background of the people in advance, be better prepared for
Okay,
2
we could-
o'clock.
we
and
could do that.
also go over what questions we're going to ask, so we kind of have our act together.
Okay. The only thing is we need to see if Kathy's available now. So well, that's contingent on her availability, right? So
Well, the manager may know who, does manager know who?
she has information. She sent us an email last night.
Okay.
And did you see her email last night? She sent us some information. So I'm happy to, right now, we can adjourn to closed session instead of recessing. So the board was requested to adjourn to closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer, employee, or prospective public officer or employee, or to hear or investigate a complaint, charge, or grievance by any or against any individual public officer or employee. And this as well, okay. And to preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to 143-318.11A3.
Do we go into closed session for those reasons stated by the chair?
Moved by Commissioner Carter, seconded by Commissioner Hill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we're unanimously adjourned. I do know that Dawn wanted to take a photo, so let's do that real